Ed DeRoe and Tom Deeth at Bill Munsey Park in Detroit, Michigan. The boats are on the course. Let's meet the drivers involved in this championship race.
Hi, I'm Chip Hanauer from Seattle, Washington, and I drive the Atlas Van Line. Hi, my name is Jim Kropfeld from Cincinnati, Ohio. I drive the Miss Budweiser.
Hi, I'm Ron Schneider from Piqua, Ohio. I drive the U6 Rich Pan Food Service boat.
Hello, I'm Earl Hall from Hampton, Virginia. I drive the U2, the Squire Shop.
Hi, I'm George Johnson from Seattle, Washington, the driver of the Executron boat, the U8.
The drivers have started to mill for position. We're waiting for that 1-minute gun. Tom, you've been there. What's it like?
Well, it's strictly business in the cockpit right now from a driver's standpoint. You're concentrating on your start, jockeying for position, and one of the things that's going to make it more difficult is the fact that the wind is picked up here in the Detroit River, and there's now a lot of ground swells, a lot of white capping down by the Belle Isle Bridge.
Well, we have less than a minute to go. The boats are building to race speeds. Tom's always talking about the importance of the start. Let's hear what defending champion Chip Hanauer has to say.
The start is probably the most crucial part of the race. The object is to get the inside and hit the starting line with as much speed as you possibly can. I would say the guy who gets the jump at the start is probably going to be the winner of the race.
5 hydroplanes on this treacherous 3-mile water raceway heading for the start of this winner-take-all finale. Chip Hanauer, Jim Kropfeld, Ron Schneider, George Johnson, and rookie Earl Hall.
Well, Chip Hanauer has what he wants, that all-important inside lane.
Ron Schneider has taken lane 2. Jim Kropfeld has to settle for lane 3. And Earl Hall is outside. George Johnson seems to be slightly off the pace.
Well, I think Jim Kropfeld has jumped the gun. He was awful early on the start.
Well, Chip Hanauer might have been right on the money, or he jumped too. Now, Hanauer may be just a little anxious because he jumped the gun in a heat earlier today, and no one knows. Wait, there's the official signal to the drivers that someone has jumped the gun, but they won't be able to see that until the next time around, so Hanauer really doesn't know.
That's right. He's got to be concerned at this point because he pressed the clock awful closely, and you can see the rough water in the Detroit Belle Isle turn there.
I've got the official word now. It was Jim Kropfeld. He was the guilty party at the starting line, but Chip Hanauer doesn't know that.
Well, Chip isn't going to find out until he comes around to the start-finish line, but he's still going to run this race like all the marbles are on the table.
Well, Chip doesn't know it yet, but he's in the driver's seat, and I understand that Jim Lucero took a big gamble just prior to the race, changed everything on the boat.
Well, he had to make some changes to get the boat to handle better because of the fact that the wind was kicking up, the water conditions were worsening, and the boat seems to be working perfectly now as it's heading down toward the Detroit Yacht Club.
Well, Jim Kropfeld knows he jumped the gun. He's got to get on it.
He's definitely got to get on it. He's got to try and unlap himself so he can get those most valuable national points.
I think we should explain right here that Kropfeld, who jumped the gun, automatically is penalized a lap, and even though it looks like he's in second place, he is really in last place, and right now Earl Hall is in second place, and you see them coming through the Rooster Tail turn. Kropfeld's familiar with the Detroit course. This is his first unlimited race, but he won the Grand Prix Championship here in '81 and '82.
Yes, he did, and he's going to need all that experience right now because the Squire Shop is coming up along the outside, and you can see that Jim has looked over. He's going to get on the nitrous button, and he's going to try and pull away to get ahead of Earl.
But there is your leader right now, Chip Hanauer. 28 years old, a bachelor, the defending national champion, fulfilling a boyhood dream, graduate of Washington State and a former teacher before he got involved in unlimited hydroplane racing. And look at that average speed, over 115 miles an hour. Tom, that's tremendous.
That's incredible because the river has really kicked up. The wind is blowing. Look at the Atlas pounding through the Belle Isle turn. And in order to run that 115 miles an hour average, as slow as he has to go in the corners, he must be hitting close to 165, 170 on the backstretch over there by the Belle Isle bathing beach side.
Well, you know, when you're being bounced around in that cockpit, whoa, wait a minute, we have our first casualty, Tom. The first casualty of the race is the Squire Shop. Earl Hall is pulling down on the backstretch.
It's Earl Hall, and he's out for the day. And the Atlas fan lines, though, seems to be running just like it's supposed to and coming down the backstretch.
I would imagine that right now Chip Hanauer and his crew has to be very happy with the way the boat is running, but Jim Kropfeld certainly is not going to give up, and I don't think Chip is going to come off the throttle that much.
Not at all. He just looked over his shoulder. He saw where he was on the race course, and he knows he's got a comfortable lead now, so he can probably back it down just a little bit and conserve the boat.
Well, Kropfeld is not going to give him any breathing room if he can. And Chip seems to be running very well right now. Also running a very good race and a smart race is Ron Snyder in the Rich Plan Food Service.
Well, Ron is running a very good race. He's driving a conventional boat, which the driver sits behind the engine. He's also going to get a much rougher ride sitting back there.
Don, from what you've told me, I am amazed. Average speed after the second lap over 110 miles an hour.
Well, and the Atlas is now going through the Belle Isle turn again, and the water is getting even worse, but the boat seems to be performing very well, and he's heading now down the Belle Isle straightaway.
Here's how we stand after 2 completed laps. Chip Hanauer has the lead. Ron Snyder is shown in second place. George Johnson off the pace, but in third place. Jim Kropfeld trying to catch up and unlap himself. Remember, he was penalized that lap. As rough as it is out there, I have to know what it's like in the cockpit.
Well, it's really demanding on the driver. You get tossed around like a rag doll in there, and it jars you so bad sometimes you think your teeth are going to pop out of your mouth.
Once again, we take a look at Ron Snyder, and that boat is owned by the city of Madison. What a tremendous community operation.
Well, it's great to have a community like the people of Madison behind a boat like that, and it's a community effort. They're doing a fine job out here holding down second place.
But so far, this day belongs to Chip Hanauer, who started his racing when he was just 10 years old and surprised everyone when he took over for Bill Munsey last year, won 5 races in the national championship. And Tom, you were there when he started in Unlimited.
I saw him drive his first unlimited hydroplane in 1976, and I had a friend of mine with me at the race, John Love, and I told him, boy, keep your eye on him. This kid's going to be great.
We have 2 laps to go now, and Chip Hanauer seems to have everything under control, but naturally, he always has to wonder.
That's for sure. He's trying to run that boat as easily as possible, but yet as fast as possible.
Look at that lap speed.
Still up there around 110 miles an hour, so that must be very comfortable for the Atlas to run at that speed, even though the water conditions are bad.
Ron Snyder at the other end of the course, trying to catch up, making sure that if something happens, he'll be right there to take advantage of it.
Well, Ron's trying to keep the Atlas in sight. He knows he's got second place locked, and anything could happen in this game. A little bolt could break, the Atlas could go dead in the water, and Ron could be the winner. He's already won once this year.
I think we have to realize that there are 4 boats in the race, and as you said, anything can happen, and George Johnson may be hanging around for that opportunity too.
Well, George is running a real conservative race. It's obvious his game plan was to go out there and finish. He didn't mix it up at the start, and he's just been kind of hanging on there, and right now he's in a 3rd place, and it's a strong 3rd.
But it seems like that boat is making him work.
Well, it's one of the older boats, and it's narrower than the newer designs, like the Atlas, which is the state-of-the-art unlimited hydroplane at the present time. And he's got his hands full, there's no doubt about that.
Chip Hanauer, our leader, coming up and about to lap George Johnson, so you know that Chip has not really let off the throttle that much.
Well, again, he's got his boat running at a comfortable speed. He's not going too fast, but yet he's not going too slow. It's just right.
I think we should point out here, I have been told that a world attendance record for a sporting event was broken today, that the crowd is estimated at over 750,000 people. And Tom, you grew up here. You've never seen anything like this, have you?
Never seen anything like this. Even when they had the Gold Cup here last year, this is fantastic. It sure pumps the drivers up when you have that many people rooting you on, because that's why we do our thing.
And a beautiful shot of your leader, Chip Hanauer, as he takes this last turn on the Belle Island side. Before the race, we spoke to Chip and asked what would be his feeling and thoughts if he was leading with 1 lap to go.
If you've got a lap to go and you're leading the race, the first thing you start listening for is problems. You know, you hear every little nook and cranny in the engine. But if you are out in front, what you got to do is use as much race course as possible and make sure that if they are going to go around you, they're going to have to do it on the outside.
The only thing Chip Hanauer has to worry about right now is that everything stays together. He's only about a half mile from his 9th career victory and back-to-back wins here in Detroit, and we have another casualty, Jim Kropfeld.
Jim is obviously out of the race. He waved his arms, which signifies driver okay. The Atlas is now heading up the backstretch. He's got one more corner to go, and then there's the short run to the start-finish line.
If Chip can keep it together, he will join such greats as Gar Wood, Stan Dollar, the legendary Bill Muncy, and the immortal Dean Chenoweth, who have won back-to-back here in Detroit, along with my colleague, Tom Deeth. And Tom, you must know how he feels.
It's the greatest feeling on earth. When you win here at Detroit with all these people watching you and cheering you on, and of course the Atlas Van Lines are the great rooting section here in Detroit. It's one of the most popular victories for Chip, I'm sure.
And for veteran Ron Snyder, a second-place finish, I'm sure will keep the 14,000 owners in Madison, Indiana happy. And Big George Johnson brings the Executone home in 3rd place. Jim Kropfeld and Earl Hall failed to finish, but this day belongs to 28-year-old Chip Hanauer. You see him there applauding his crew, and rightly so. They did a masterful job in keeping him on the water this week.
They worked real hard all day long, and it's a tribute to their racing team.
That is one happy team, and I know they'll celebrate tonight. Muncy Park in Detroit, Michigan, I am talking to a very happy and proud 28-year-old winner of our championship race, Chip Hanauer. Chip, 28 years old, and the Atlas Van Lines, 2 in a row on a tough river like Detroit. You have got to be 10 miles high.
I am. You know, last year winning the Gold Cup here was the best day I ever had in my life, and today to turn our year around and win against, you know, in front of the best fans in the world and the best racing city in the world, it's great.
Someone was penalized because they jumped the gun. Did you think it might be you?
You never know, you know, because I hit the start real good. When you hit the start good, it's only a matter of, you know, a fraction of a second if you're over. And I knew somebody had because they notify you, but you don't know who. And I was just glad to get that green flag with 1 lap to go, because then I knew it wasn't me.
I've got something I know you're going to want to look at and maybe give us a couple of opinions, and that's the last few laps of the race. You got off to a good start. You led about all the way. Did the boat run the way you wanted?
Well, Ed, the boat's still not where we'd like to have it, but it's much better than it has been all year. And the start really helped. You know, when you can get out in front, especially on a rough water race course like it is here at Detroit, that's a big advantage. And then when the Budweiser jumped the gun, you know, that just made it all the easier.
Well, you had some other competition, but it never really developed because your boat was running great.
Well, yeah, it really was. Jim Lucero and Jim Harvey made a change just before the final heat. 5 minutes before the heat, he walked into the motorhome and looked at me and smiled and said, "This one's going to work." He says, "I know I've told you that before." He says, "But this one's going to work." And it did.
You also had a little damage to your boat from earlier competition, and I know you were very concerned after you won that first heat, and we talked to you, and you really didn't know whether you'd get into this one.
Yeah, we had done a lot of damage to the boat. Unfortunately, we had contact with the Rich Plan Food Service boat at the start. That caused some damage to our boat, and then also the water being so rough, it actually just pounded a hole right in the front of the boat. So we just threw some aluminum over the hole, and it held.
When you started running well, but Chip, on those last few laps with everything going so well, what was going through your mind?
I was worried about that hole, Ed. You know, we just put a thin sheet of aluminum over it, and I could feel that sponson pounding in that rough water. And all my thoughts were on that piece of aluminum, that it would stay put.
We've got you now coming around, getting ready to take the checkered flag. Checkered flag, 2 years in a row, tough course on a place where I know you want to win. What were your thoughts?
I was just happy. I'm just happy for the guys that work so hard. These guys have done everything from stay up to 2 nights going to lay on their back with, you know, shavings in their eyes just to get the job done. And I'm just glad for them that they get to savor 1 win tonight.
Well, Chip Hanauer, you've had 2 today, and I know there'll be many, many more in your future, and we thank you so much. Thanks so much to our winner, Chip Hanauer. Well, it's been a great day on the river, Tom.
It certainly has, Ed, and it's also been a very safe day. With the water conditions the way they've been, it's a great victory for the Atlas Van Lines and Chip Hanauer. 2 years in a row here in Detroit. It's a testament to him and his team, and I'm sure that they're going to do great for the rest of the year.
Stroh's Thunderfest 83 was brought to you by Quaker State. Today, you need a motor oil this good. You need Quaker State. By Dutch Boy Paint. When Dutch Boy goes on, the value goes up. And by Stroh's. From one beer lover to another, Stroh's. By While you watch Chip Hanauer savor his victory before a record-breaking crowd, I'd like to say special thanks to Unlimited Racing Commissioner Fred Alter and his assistant Sam Cole for their help, and my special appreciation and admiration to the Spirit of Detroit Regatta Committee and its chairman Raymond Vasilio for allowing us to record this page in Unlimited Racing history. Hotel